It was early morning in Germantown. The streets were quiet, cold air settled over the neighborhood. Officer Jeff Gonzalez was out on routine patrol. Nothing out of the ordinary. Until he saw it. A black Labrador. Running loose. Frantic. Not lost, but on a mission. Rising suspicion. The dog had a collar, tags. This wasn't a stray. It belonged to someone. But it wasn't acting like a typical runaway. It wasn't running away from danger. It was running towards something, or someone, and it kept looking back, at him. Officer Gonzalez slowed down, rolled down the window, tried to call the dog over, but the dog didn't come. Instead, it darted forward again, then stopped, looked back, waited. There was urgency in its movements, like it needed him to follow. And eventually, he did. The silent emergency. What the officer didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that the dog's owner, Crystal Lower, had collapsed on her front porch just minutes before. Still in her pajamas and housecoat, she had lost consciousness outside, alone, unseen, exposed to the cold, except not entirely alone. The dog's decision. The dog, Johnny, had stayed by her side. When she stopped moving, he had waited. When no one came, he made a decision. He took off running, searching, hoping, until he found a police cruiser. Back on the street, Officer Gonzalez kept trying to catch up to the black lab. Each time he got close, the dog moved again, but always in the same direction. It wasn't aimless. It was a route, a lead. And then finally, the dog stopped at a house, sat down, looked back one more time, waiting. The officer follows. That's when Gonzalez saw her, Crystal, slumped over on her front porch. She wasn't moving, still in her nightclothes. No signs of alertness. She looked like she had been there for some time. "I was obviously in some distress," she'd later say. "I didn't even know what was happening." Officer Gonzalez immediately called for medical help. Back at the hospital, Crystal's daughter, Tyianne, got the call. Her mother had been found unconscious. "Out in the street for about an hour," she said. "They thought that she was dead." The moment hit hard. The fear, the helplessness, the sheer shock. But one thing was clear. If Johnny hadn't gone for help, if that officer hadn't followed, her mom might not be here. Two unlikely heroes. Thanks to the alertness of a loyal dog and the instincts of a good officer, Crystal was brought to the hospital in time. Doctors were still trying to figure out exactly what caused her collapse. Tests were ongoing, but Crystal was recovering, and Johnny, the dog who wouldn't give up, was being showered in love and treats. The connection between Johnny and Officer Gonzalez didn't go unnoticed. "It was kind of like a lasting moment," Gonzalez said. "She pointed me in the right direction." He smiled at the memory. It wasn't just a coincidence. It wasn't just luck. It was a choice, a decision, a dog doing everything in his power to save the one person who mattered most to him. When reporters called him a hero, Gonzalez seemed reluctant. "A little uncomfortable with that, I guess," he said. "It was just a bunch of circumstances that came together, and that's my job." He shrugged off the praise. But everyone who heard the story knew it was more than that. It was instinct, it was trust, and above all, it was heart, loyalty that saves lives. Johnny never gave up. Not when Crystal didn't move, not when cars drove past, not when the first attempts to get help failed. He kept going, he kept trying, until someone, finally, understood and followed. Officer Gonzalez could have driven past, could have assumed the dog was just another runaway, but something told him to look closer, to pay attention. That decision made all the difference. Today, Crystal Lower is safe. She is still recovering, but alive, thanks to a loyal companion and a watchful officer. Johnny is back at her side, tail wagging, with a few extra treats under his belt. And in a quiet town in Wisconsin, a story of love, instinct, and timing is still being told. Not as a tragedy, but as a miracle. Two unlikely partners, one urgent mission. And a reminder, sometimes the most powerful message doesn't come from words. It comes from a dog who just wouldn't stop running.